Hello.
Hi.
We're live. Okay.
Ready?
I think so.
All right.
Here we go.
Let's do it. Welcome back to another episode of The Authentic Souls. I'm Danielle.
And I am Savannah Nicholson.
This episode is extra special, and we're going to tell you why. One of our listeners, shout out to Cassie, actually requested this, which is so exciting because we love hearing from you. So this episode is going to be all about creativity.
Yes, Cassie is so sweet. She left a review on iTunes, leaving a little comment about creativity and how she wanted us to talk about how we cultivate it, how we build a creative network, and
to share an experience with creativity.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about it today.
Yes. And if anyone else has any other topics you would like us to talk about, go ahead and leave us a review. Reviews on iTunes are so helpful for so many reasons, but also just to understand more of what you guys want to hear. We love it.
Mm-hmm. You can also send us an email at theauthentic.souls@gmail.com. You can also get on Instagram,
DM
at
us.
The Authentic Souls, get on TikTok. I don't know.
I'm
like, what else?
If you could make a TikTok.
Make a TikTok and just follow us. Don't follow anyone else.
Oh my gosh.
Every week and a half when we post a 4-second video, make sure you're there to see it and like it. We'd appreciate that greatly.
Yeah, if we could build our following over there, that'd be
I think we
great.
have 13 followers, which is so exciting.
Watch out, world.
Here we come.
Here we come.
Oh, creativity. Oh my gosh. Well, I feel like we could talk about this all day, but we'll try and just be concise.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to eventually talk about our own experiences with creativity and how we've made it into basically our livelihoods pretty much. But also just in general, if you feel like you could use a little more creativity in your life, we're going to talk about how you can do that.
Yes. So my definition of creativity is just how you express yourself in the world. We all know the traditional ways of creativity and art, which is, drawing, painting, sculpting, like all those ways you just think of when it's like, oh, I'm creative. Like I do art. It's like we're trying to flip the narrative a little bit and help, expand perspectives so you can see things that like creativity is like a way of being throughout your life. It's not just this specific thing that you do. It's like, I think a lot of people can compartmentalize themselves and be like, oh, that person's creative and I'm not.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have a lot of people that, because I do consider myself a creative person, obviously. And I've had a lot of people be like, oh, well, you're creative, but I'm not. And I don't like that because I don't think it's true. I think we're all creative in our own ways. I mean, if you think about how you were as a kid, every kid is freaking so creative and has such an imagination. Think about who you were as a kid. And we're just trying to channel some of that energy.
Yeah. It's really weird when someone identifies, because I get the same thing. We'll be like, oh, you're so creative. And I'm like, thank you. It's for sure a compliment, but also it makes you feel different. And it's I'm not any different than anyone else.
It's just the way I express myself, maybe in a specific way that is oh, you're a creative. Or we would always call ourselves creative entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And I think we attached to that word because it made us feel good. Not saying you can't be that thing, but I think just being more open about what creativity is.
Yeah. It doesn't mean not just artists aren't creative. So many people are creative, whether you like to bake, whether you like to build things, whether you're a computer programmer, all of these things take a lot of creativity.
Agreed.
And not just, in that super traditional artist way.
Yeah, I think creativity for me just kind of means shifting the way someone looks at the world, even if it's slightly, because I mean, nothing is completely original, right? We're all kind of low-key copying each other in some way or another, but it's just about making something a little bit different to make someone think a little bit differently.
Yeah. Creativity is a way of being rather than a specific thing that you do. That makes sense. There's, as you know, I wrote down creativity can be making any sort of outcome with your actions. So it doesn't matter specifically like if you label something as creative or not. It just matters. Does this make sense?
So are you saying it's more about the process than the end result?
I'm just saying that you can be, if you apply creativity as a mindset rather than like, oh, I'm doing something quote unquote creative right now. If you just apply creativity to all that you do, creativity is going to show up in how you do it.
Yeah.
Rather than like the end goal.
Like, look, I made this.
Yeah.
But rather just the process of it.
Yeah.
That's
you're
how I
going to
see
be
it,
using creativity through the entire thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can bring that creativity into whatever you do day to day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, like problem solving was a great example of that because, you know, that's not anything tangible that you're making. It's not like a DIY project, problem solving. But it actually kind of is. It's like do it yourself, figure out the problem, trust that you have the solution within. You just have to be creative enough to figure it out.
Yeah, I think that over the years of us building businesses, we haven't had a lot of money, and it's amazing how creative you can get when you don't necessarily have the resources that you feel like you need in a moment, because you have to get, like you said, it's like all about problem solving. It's like, okay, I can't do this the way I originally like thought. So how are we going to kind of work around this and like make the same similar end result?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, you know.
And sometimes it honestly turns out better when you have to like kind of dive deep and like think outside the box.
Yeah.
Than if you just like had the resources to make it happen the way you originally thought.
It makes you a more like well-rounded person. Like it makes you more capable, I feel like. Because problem solving and just looking at life creatively is such a skill to have. It's such a lesson that is there to be learned like through life. Like I'm just thinking about my own life, and you know, like back in September when I took that job to cook for a wedding in Hawaii, it's like, okay, I have to cook 3 meals in a day for 35 to 40 people. I've never done this before. I just said yes because I used to work at a vegan cafe, and this is an opportunity to go to Hawaii. And it's like, all right, I can either be terrified and say no, or I can say yes, trust myself, and
figure it out.
Use my creativity with cooking, but also as far as like when problems arise, trust that I have an answer within. And there were a couple times, man, where, oh my gosh, I remember I went with my friend Leslie, and I knew it was going to happen. Like I knew something was going to happen in this week.
Yeah.
And it was pancakes. We were making pancakes, and the batter just came out way too watery. And she just stared at me like frozen. And I had already decided, like in my brain before I left, was like, there is a solution for every problem, and you are not going to panic. You are just going to get creative.
Yeah.
That's all you can do.
Yeah.
And I just looked at her and was like, all right, like you keep going, keep doing like prepping other things, and I'm just going to get in the car and like pray that there's a grocery store around here and that I can find some flour or, you know, basically need something to thicken up the pancake batter. Anyway, I got in my car and I got it figured out. I found some stuff. I came back, and it's crazy how much that I still look back on that trip and those experiences and how much it trained me internally that like you can figure things out. Like it boosted my confidence so much around these things.
Yeah.
And then it's crazy because at the same time, that lesson that I learned and just flowing through it without letting the panic sit in, because the panic just creates roadblocks where it just like takes longer to find the solution. It led to all these other things where it's like, now I knew where this store was, which I would have never known before. So all the other times that we needed to run to the store, you know, I was so much better like set up. No, that was a tangent, but like...
Well, all I'm thinking about right now is I'm like, so what you're saying is the key to creativity is confidence. And if you need help with your confidence, we just did an episode on that. But now I'm like, duh, I didn't even think about this before, but I'm like, they go hand in hand, because you have the confidence to be like, oh, I'm going to solve this. I'm going to figure this out. I'm not going to just panic. I'm not going to be like, oh my God, like it's all ruined. Like I feel like those go hand in hand.
They totally do.
So that's my little note.
Well, I'm glad I shared because I mean, yeah. And so that's the thing. It's like creativity shows up in life in so many ways. So that's why when people say, "Oh, you're so creative," it's like, bitch, so are you. Like, don't you live normal life and don't you have to solve problems and don't you have to figure things out as you go?
Mhm.
Like, we're all creative.
Yeah.
And so
absolutely.
it just comes down to, I guess, being confident and believing in yourself and knowing what you like to do, what you're creative about. And at the same time, it's like, yeah, we both have creative, lives. We record a podcast. I have my jewelry brand. You have your, I almost called it its old name.
I have a house brand.
You have a house brand, an account online. Check out our TikToks. They're doing great, everyone.
You guys, I'm going viral.
She's going viral. So, online, like that's a
Yeah.
super traditionally creative
Mhm.
role. We both manage, social media accounts on the side. That also like channels a lot of creativity into that. So I guess there's like two lanes of creativity.
Mhm. Yeah, I guess it's like whether you're talking about traditional creativity or not, but we're just trying to open your mind of like it doesn't have to all be this very traditional route of like what you consider to be a creative life or a creative job.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
have to be an artist
Yeah.
to be creative. You can be creative in so many ways. Like another kind of what's the word? Different. What's it called when something's different? I was gonna say avant-garde, but that's not what I meant.
Eclectic, authentic.
Oh my god. When I say what I'm about to say, it's gonna just make all
Not
of this
be
no.
what I'm saying.
So basically, another way I like to think about being creative in a
Uh-huh.
different way is cleaning. Like I think
Okay. Explain.
I just think cleaning is such a creative like avenue. I know you're
Uh-huh.
looking at me like I'm crazy, but you
Uh-huh.
do it. We both
I
do
love
it
to
every
clean.
day.
I'm not denying that. I don't necessarily think I'd put that with creativity, but I'm open to your point.
I mean, cleaning is making a space different, making a space new. Maybe you rearrange your pillows a certain way. Maybe
Yeah.
you make your room look a little bit nicer.
I think what you're saying is creativity, like we already were saying, can be found in anything. So when you're cleaning, get creative with how you clean.
Exactly.
Yeah. I agree.
I just,
We're on the same
I'm just
page.
thinking of non-traditional ways of being creative.
Totally. Well, but also let's talk about how to get in tune with some of the more like traditional, like your imagination or
Yeah.
just like those creative things that we do want to draw out of ourselves so that we can begin to use it in all parts of our life.
Yeah, definitely. I think you and I can maybe like overlook this part of life because we've been so creative since such a young age. And it's such like a part of us. And so we
Mhm.
can say like, oh, like everyone's creative, like easy done. But
Mhm.
I know there's people listening right now who are like, okay, so like how do I cultivate that traditional creativity? Because I don't even know how to do that.
Exactly. So then it can spill over into everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like anything. It's a practice, right? So it's about setting aside time, whatever, whether you do want to paint, whether you want to journal, whatever that looks like, but first just like consciously setting aside time to do that. I know for both of us when we first started our businesses, it was like, okay, after 6 p.m., we get out our supplies and we start making stuff,
Yeah.
So whether it is something you want to make into a business or if it is just for fun, just setting aside that time for yourself to play and get creative.
I look back on that time like so fondly of just like, okay, I knew I wanted to make jewelry. I didn't know how. Like I'm completely self-taught. And I just remember 2 hours every single day, like in the evening after 6 p.m. I would just pull out all my stuff and I was so eager and excited to make things. And sometimes it worked out. Sometimes it didn't, but that's a whole part of the process is not like judging what you're doing. Just let yourself learn, let yourself have fun with it.
Yeah.
And watch it evolve because it will, because you'll become better at the craft, whatever you there you go into the traditional creativity. But like, again, like whatever you're doing, whatever craft you're learning, whatever
project
thing you're creating,
on.
like it could be, like I was saying before, it could be like coding a computer. I don't know how to code, but coding a computer, like I don't know what I'm saying, but like writing. There's so many other avenues of creativity where it's like you can
But
you
yeah, honing your
practice
craft, whatever that's such a big term. I feel like that can apply to so many different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I agree, like not judging. I think when you first start something that you really love, like we did, it was almost so easy to you just loved making. So you were less judgmental. I feel like as I made it into a business, like years later, it was a lot harder for me to just make stuff just to make stuff. Like it's always like, oh, well, like that's shit, or like I hate that. But in the beginning, you're like, oh, I just want to like make stuff and see what happens. And I think having that mindset can be really helpful because eventually, yeah, you will get better. You will grow. That's just when you do anything consistently, that's what happens. So yeah.
Yeah,
important to remember.
whatever brings you into the flow state, whatever allows you to drop all distractions and you're just like super honed in on that thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, things that spark joy, like if you maybe you follow someone on social media and you like are obsessed with what they're doing and you want to try it out for yourself, go for it. Try it out. You know, a great thing to keep in mind is that everything has been done before. It's already happened.
Yeah.
Like,
Nothing
you know,
is completely original.
yeah.
And not saying go out and copy people, but it's amazing when you can gain inspiration from other people and kind of put your own twist on it.
Yeah, and know that you're going to make it your own. No matter, even if you try to copy someone, it's not going to come out a replica. And if it is, that's so boring. Like if you can allow yourself to stretch and play with your own imagination and the outcome of something and see how you can do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like jewelry is such a great example. Like I remember when I first started making jewelry, I was trying to like overly design things and make it just like so different. But it's like jewelry is such a great example of
like sometimes you don't want it to be too different.
Yeah. Like I now, you know, a lot of my stuff is like more dainty, more simple, like everyday pieces. But at the same time, I have people who come up to me and they're like, oh, like I can totally recognize like when someone's wearing your stuff. And it's like, oh, that's so nice to hear. But at the same time, it's a simple necklace or it's like, it's just a chain with a pearl on it. And it's, you know.
Well, and I think that takes time too of whatever craft you are honing in on, like to put your own spin on it. Because eventually you will find your own little twist on it. And that's really cool when you can get to that point where you're like, okay, people can tell my stuff because of this. You know? I think that's pretty cool.
And so much of what you make and what you do, it's like you're pouring yourself into it. And that and that's also going to be read through whatever you make. Like it's like we can all be so hard on ourselves when we're making it, but it's so interesting because you can't outwardly observe yourself. And I just know, like, whether it's watching Danielle or you know, people watching me, it's like, because you get that feedback and you're like, oh, interesting. Like someone can tell you made that, even if you think that it's like not that different than someone else. Like I think about a friend who makes ceramics. We have a handful of friends who make ceramics and each person is so different.
You can tell.
You can tell who is who. You can open our cabinet and you'll see all these different ceramicists. Yeah, ceramicists. And we can name them all.
Yeah. What a beautiful thing. And I love the idea of like you're putting a piece of yourself into something. That is the cool thing about making something tangible. Or even just using it as like memories, looking back and being like, oh, remember when I made that one thing? Like it's so funny. I'll like every once in a while go to the beginning of my Instagram page, which I started in 2015, and it is hilarious to see what I started making. It was absolute shit, but I loved making it. And it's funny to see like the evolution of like what it turned into to like what I would consider like my best work, you know? But a lot of it is time.
Yeah.
And just playing and just, setting aside that time to be consistent with it.
Again, it comes back to confidence, having the confidence in yourself to not feel silly in the beginning, to know that it's going to like take time, and to be okay with not being good at something in the beginning. No one or hardly anyone starts something as just like really good at it.
I hate that. That's something I really struggle with. I want to be so good at everything like immediately when I start.
Yeah.
I don't like not being good at things.
I know.
It's hard.
I know this. Our last recording could be a great example. Side note, everyone, we had a little technical mishap and
it's going to be fine.
It's going to be fine. And we just have to take our own advice. But sometimes this is a great example. we don't know everything. Like
Yeah.
we share these things as we're experiencing them.
Mhm.
And then
And sometimes we have to take our own fucking advice.
Yeah.
When things don't work out and you're like, oh, it's fine. Okay, we're just gonna flow through it.
just trust
We're
the
n-
universe.
Yeah.
You're learning a lesson right now. Just trust.
Successful people don't believe in failure. And you're like, God damn it, I know. Okay.
But at the
remember.
same time, I want to cry.
It ain't easy.
But we're going to find a solution because we're creative. And we got this,
We're
girl.
creative people in all areas of our lives.
We're creative.
I think we talked about this a little bit, but a really great way to get creative is to collect inspiration. I know for me, I'm such a visual person that sometimes I don't know what I want to make until I see something that like sparks something where it's like, oh, but I could do it this way and this way. So I know for me, just having like visuals, whether it's like things I'm collecting or if I'm on social media, like that's helpful for me to have like a starting place.
Yeah. And again, all of our topics, I feel like, circle into one another because
I know they're also intertwined.
Holistic.
Holistic living, intentional living.
Holistic podcasting. Anyway, if you live an intuition-led life, you're also going to be led to the things that you deem as creative within your own life. And you're going to also have to get very creative with your life because not everything you do is going to always make sense to you in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to trust that you're going to figure it out. You're going to have a creative way to find a solution. Or maybe your intuition's leading you to start something creative. Because, and again, if you listen to our chakra episode, if you talk about the sacral chakra, the second chakra, we all need to be tapped into our own personal creative nature.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not, then you're going to have like this dullness to life. So creativity is really important to each and every one of us. So if you decided you're going to start living by your intuition, you're going to start listening to your inner guidance, it may lead you to like a more traditional creative path, which will be interesting.
Well, and I think I mentioned this in another episode of ours, but I was floating a couple months ago and
okay, you have to go. Okay. Floating in a tank.
Yeah.
In a sensory deprivation tank.
Uh-huh.
Not everyone knows what a tank
I
is.
was floating.
So the other day I was floating. She was levitating, for anyone wondering.
I can do that when I meditate. No, so I was floating. So I was in Central Coast Floats and I was in a tank and I was meditating and I was kind of feeling a little lost. And so I was like trying to tap into my intuition and I was like, kind of like, what should I be doing? Like, what are the things I should be doing more of? And I kept getting these pings like, because I've been doing a lot of work on the house and like interior design. And that's what my house pages, I think we said earlier.
Rad Home Co.
And I kept getting the ping, like, just like make art. And I was kind of like, why? Like, I get it, but also like, that's not going to make me money right now. Like, it'll be fun to have a bunch of art in the house and stuff, but I was kind of like, eh. And I've been doing that. I've also been, making videos and posting it on social media, but I mean, they've really started gaining traction the last couple of weeks. And it's made me realize like, I was getting this ping because it is filling me up. I really enjoy being creative. But also it's like, oh, I can like make this a part of my brand, make this a part of my business. And like, it can all be one. Anyway.
Yeah, it's going to pay off in other ways that like didn't make sense. And that's the part of the intuition. It doesn't always make sense when you're getting the ping, but you have to trust in yourself and trust in the universe that it's going to make sense later on. So a couple weeks down the road, you start getting traction on TikTok and Instagram and you're like, oh, 60K views. Like,
this is what people want to see.
This makes sense why I was feeling the ping to make this thing and to make a video about it, because now we're building the brand in a whole other way.
Exactly.
Full circle.
Full circle. Love it.
Yeah, being creative and listening to your intuition really, I don't want to use the word force, but it just like creates the opportunity for you to be a active participant in your own life, for you to realize like, oh, when I take inspired action, when I feel something from within, like that's going to lead me to a path of creativity, and it's going to look different for everyone else. But it just life becomes so much more interactive that way. You're like, oh, I make and do this, and then I'll see what happens.
Yeah.
It's such a more like active life, if that makes sense. You're not sitting on the sidelines like watching other people be creative. I'm using quotations when I say that. It's like, no, you can be creative too. It's like, what do you like to enjoy? What do you enjoy? What do you like to do?
Yeah.
Ask these questions from within, wait for an answer to arise. Side note, if you would like to take the intuition course, we have a whole course on the intuition.
Hours of video. We have a 35-page handbook. It's only $33.
Because it's such a skill to hone in on.
Yeah,
like
it is.
I know we're just talking about like ask your intuition, tap into your intuition, like do intuition work, inner guidance work, but it's such a skill to have. And that's why we laugh at like confidence leads to creativity, and creativity leads to having a stronger intuition, and they're all so holistic, and it's important for us to practice all of these pieces. So if you want to learn more on the intuition, because we live in such a logic-based world where it's like not taught how to trust yourself fully. We're always looking for advice outside of ourselves. So this is a huge, and even when you're traditionally creating something, and say you're painting, and you're like, what do I do next? You know what I mean? You know that feeling when you get stuck, and you're like, and you literally have to ask from within, and you just gotta like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna trust, and you do that next like swoosh of the paintbrush.
Yeah. Or even when you're just in the flow so much that it's like almost like you're not even the one doing it. It's like happening just like through you.
Oh, that's such a beautiful analogy for life.
Yeah.
Life is like a painting. We're all painting our lives.
The painters of our own lives.
It's so true.
Make yours beautiful.
Oh, tap into that intuition and just live by the true painter you are.
So cheesy, but I love it.
It's so when things make sense so much in such like practical ways like that, if that makes sense. I'm just kind of like, what? That's such a good example, because that's exactly what it feels like. If you've ever made anything, maybe you made a cake and no, okay, what's the better?
Where are you going with this?
Cool. Okay, cakes involve recipes, and that's logic. So I was thinking like if you made a cake without a recipe.
Well, if you cooking is
exactly.
a little more fluid. Like
that's the
you can
example.
Just throw some spices in there, and
that's the example I was going to use next. Was like, say you're making a veggie saute or something, and you're like, how am I going to spice this up? And you just start trusting and spicing, and some salt, some pepper, some garlic powder, some paprika. You're like, wow, that is a masterpiece. And that is what your life can be, a veggie saute.
Yeah. Keep listening, and your life will eventually become a beautiful veggie saute.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, exactly.
I want to throw something in here that's not necessarily related, but it's important. This is something you actually taught me. Not that you taught me, it was just something that you kind of brought into my world at one point when I needed to hear it. And now it's something that I try and remind myself. Because we are talking about social media, putting yourself on social media or using it as a source of inspiration, remember to kind of find a balance between creating and consuming. Because when that tips the scales, when you're just consume, and I am so guilty of this. Like I said, I have to constantly remind myself of this because I get caught in this like consume. But we also need to be creating as well. We don't need to just be like watching everyone else around us. And it doesn't have to be like, I'm not saying like, oh, if you're on social media, you need to be posting on social media. I'm just saying in general, like the more just in general, make that even balance.
No, I understand what you're saying. Well, and
did that come out right?
No, it
I
did.
don't know.
Because in regards to our own life, we share our lives on social media. So for us, it would be like
example.
Yeah. And I guess because maybe your intuition's telling you don't need to share your life on Instagram. That's for you. You don't need to share that. And that's fine. But I guess in this context, then just make sure you have a balance of creating in the real world in your real everyday life and not just
sitting back and watching
everyone online. Because I also know how easy that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so comfortable and fun and entertaining, and I get it. But then you know that like fog that you come out of after you've been on social media for like an hour, and you're like,
where did my life go?
I'm a piece of shit. Like, what have I been doing?
Yeah.
What am I gonna do next? Like, you feel like a stuck little potato, and you're like, you have little roots that have started to these little, what are they called? Potato spuds.
The roots?
You know, never mind.
They're just called potato roots, I think.
Yeah. You know when you start to sprout? Oh,
yeah.
You're starting to sprout and you get like stuck to where you are, and you gotta rip yourself out and like pick up momentum again. Just try not to lose momentum.
Yeah. Agreed.
And using social media as a space of inspiration rather than comparison or jealousy.
Yeah. And notice when that switch kind of flips, because like that could be all in one session of being on social media where you're like feeling really inspired, and then all of a sudden like you've gone too far down the rabbit hole and you're like, where did my life go?
I need to drink water.
Yeah. Have I eaten today?
I should go to sleep. It's 1 a.m.
No. Yeah, that's
too real.
That's me.
But speaking of social media, it's there's so many goods. It's just like anything. There's the yin and the yang, the positive, the negative to everything,
and the bad.
And social media is a great place to find a network of other creatives.
Huge tool for that. Yeah. If you're looking to connect with creative people, I mean, so many people we've met just by having our art pages and following other people, following local people, connecting with them, and then eventually connecting with them in the real world. So that's definitely, if you're not really sure where to start, as far as if you want to create like a little creative community, I think putting yourself online is a really great way to start that.
Yeah. I remember the Makeshift Makers Market in San Luis Obispo. Danielle and I have met so many peers and like other creative people, traditionally creative people, through that space. But it's crazy to look back and realize like I didn't learn about that until I was online. Like that's where I first saw the posts for like, hey, do you want to do this market? Like, and it was such an amazing time in our lives when we were living down there. And I always joked that these people, like every time I showed up every weekend to do a market, I'm like, these are my coworkers, basically. Like these people get me. They understand the struggle. They understand the highs and the lows of what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I was so excited to see these like-minded people because they got it.
Totally. Yeah. And I know in Santa Cruz, they have like art meetups. So there are so many things, and it helps to go online because that's where you can like find a lot of these things. But there's so many like in-person things that you can do to like meet people.
I know we got to be better here. We got to make some friends.
I know. Friends are scary.
Plus the pandemic, like that really threw a wrench into everyone's in-person gatherings. I mean, when we used to have our studio, I'll never forget. Oh my gosh, we had our little mixer night. Our makers mixer, is that what we called it?
Yeah.
So sweet. And the first time we had it, we had like over 40 people show up.
It was so great.
Our space was not that big. It was packed, and I was pretty overwhelmed because we were technically hosting, and we were like, wait, so many people are here.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
But it was such an honor to bring so many like-minded people together. And I know there's so many other places that do things like that. So keeping an eye out, and then working past any insecurities you have, focus on practicing confidence and go, you know what? I'm going to show up. And maybe I don't have a friend to go with, but I'm going to make a friend when I get there.
I know that's so scary to put yourself out there sometimes. Yeah. I always love that though. Like we'd have events where someone would show up alone, and like, I swear by the end, like they had made so many friends and like connected with so many people, and like, because you just get into a space and everyone's like same, like we're all kind of on the same wavelength, and so it was really cool to see those like relationships being made in those spaces. Maybe again, one day we'll have some kind of physical something. I don't know. Not a physical space, but just like being able to hold space for people.
If you think about what we're doing now with the podcast, it's holding space. So maybe in the future
we'll do like a podcast meetup.
Yeah, we'll have like a live recording, and then people can come.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
And then they're gonna be like, oh my god, you live authentic living? I love authentic living.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god, you follow your intuition?
That is literally my dream. Like people becoming friends because they both listen to the podcast. That's like next level. That'd be so cool.
Oh yeah.
It'll happen.
I mean, I have a friend, Becca, who lives in like Santa Barbara, and we met through a different podcast, but it's crazy how these people that you meet through content that you consume like that,
Mhm.
it's crazy how similar you actually are internally. So
Totally. Yeah.
I know the right people listening are here. And if you're
And
here,
we're all gonna
we
be
love you.
friends.
We're all friends. I love
One
it.
day we're gonna meet each other in person.
Oh my gosh, how fun.
Savannah and I throw a good party. So
Oh my
just
gosh, wait, what? I love this idea. This is so fun.
This is so creative.
I love, okay, and a part of creating, because I was going to say, I love to have a thing to like, it's not obsessing over, it's just dreaming about. Like, I
Yeah.
love to have a thing to dream about. And then when something happens, that's another, we'll have to do an episode on manifesting because it's,
Mhm.
oh my, it's all tied
It's all
together.
connected.
It's all connected. It's crazy because you have to be really creative with your life to be able to manifest the things you want.
Yeah.
But it's like if I dreamt up a scenario where we had a live event,
Mhm.
anything I dream up is going to be nothing compared to the actual experience.
Mhm.
And that's what's crazy is I don't have
Yeah.
this like super high expectation on like, oh, it's going to need to be in this location with this
Mhm.
many people and we're going to eat these things. You know, I was thinking like cupcakes. Like we're gonna, you know,
I'm not gonna eat cupcakes. That's so chewy of you to say.
oh Danielle, did you? Oh my
I don't want to
gosh.
shut down your dream.
Yeah, wow. You know, I also just saw a TikTok on how Chugi's becoming like ironically cool. So
Well, everything comes in cycles, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like the fashions that used to be out of fashion always come back into fashion, so it makes sense.
anyway,
Anyway.
whatever. So what I was saying is I love to have something to dream about and to just like fantasize over and yeah, because oh, it's such a process. But basically it starts in like the astral realm, the non-physical realm. Like we get, have you ever read the book? What is it? Big Magic. She talks about this idea.
Oh my gosh. Wait, okay. Sorry, real quick.
Oh my God.
You need, if you're listening to this episode and you vibe on creativity, you have to read Big Magic.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite books. It's so amazing.
So she talks about this concept of like we all get these little pings and drops of creativity and ideas or whatever. And if you can either pass on an idea or you can say, I'm going to act on it. And if you decide to pass on it, that little drop of idea, creativity, the ping will be dropped into someone else.
Yeah.
So have you ever had an idea or you've been like, oh, that thing would be cool. Like, I should do that one day. And then you never do it. And then all of a sudden, like
someone else does.
a couple weeks later, you get online and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, to be completely honest, I had this idea for an earring and I was like, oh my God, I'd never seen it on anyone before. And it was like it's a fairly simple idea.
Mhm.
It's a beaded hoop.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden I go online and this girl I follow is like, I'm making beaded hoops. And I'm like, this is so weird. It's so weird.
And that's why when you're in tune with your intuition, when you get those pings, you're able to act on them. And you don't have to. Like I love how she describes that, where it's like no big deal if you are like, I don't want to do this right now.
Yeah.
It's like the idea is like, okay, I'll find someone that will.
Yeah.
But when you're in tune with your intuition, you're able to like be really aware of those things that come through. And then from there you have free will. Do you want to do it? Do you not want to do it?
Totally.
Yeah.
It kind of comes in like you were saying with trends. Trends are such an obvious example of that, you know, like
like comes into the collective consciousness
Yeah.
and then everyone's over it. And then it comes back in and then everyone's over it. Yeah.
And so, and I think the people who are ahead of the game or really like take off or become really successful, yeah, they have dedication and they keep showing up. But at the same time, it's like, did they listen to that ping sooner than everyone else? Because some people may sit on an idea like, oh, should I do it? Should I not? Should I do it? I don't know.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, I'll do it. But maybe it's like, oh, but that person did it 6 months before me because they didn't have any hesitation.
Totally.
Not to compare.
I'm so glad you brought up that book.
Yeah.
I need to read that again.
The
It's
universe
such a good book. It's such a
dropped
good
it in
book.
my consciousness. I don't know where that came from, but
Oh no, go read that if you haven't already. Yeah, that's a good way to be creative. Also, like read creative books, like listen to other creative podcasts. Like it's all about like getting as much inspo as possible.
Hashtag inspo.
Hashtag inspo.
Make a vision board.
Yeah.
Another Chugi thing.
Yeah, but that's one of my Chugi guilty pleasures.
Well, Chugi is cool now, so
making
whatever.
Vision boards.
Whatever. It's true. There's no shame in a cupcake or a vision board. Okay. Eat that cupcake and make that. Vision boards are so fun. Danielle and I made 2 this past year.
We need to make another one for New Year's.
Oh my gosh, it's time.
It's time. It's just
Wait,
time.
everyone, make vision boards with us.
Yeah.
Get some magazines. I got
for
your hookup.
2022.
If you don't have any magazines and you don't want to go buy any, I figured out the life hack to vision boards. Call your local salon and say, hey, do you have any magazines you want to get rid of?
Yeah.
And they'll say, oh my God, because have you been to salons when they just have
so
stacks and stacks
magazines
from like 2015?
And they're like, please take these away from us.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got so many when we did that.
I called so many places in San Luis Obispo.
And everyone said yes, I'm pretty sure.
Everyone said yes. And I was overwhelmed. And I think I left like 3 salons hanging because I didn't even go pick it up. Because I just went to the first one and they gave me like so many.
Like 50.
And then we moved and Danielle was carrying all of them.
And they're heavy. Magazines are heavier than you.
You had a literal trunk, like she's from the 1800s, carrying a trunk of magazines around. Yeah. And you were like, can I please get rid of these? And I was like, okay.
But then I donated them to a friend that wanted to make vision boards. So it feels like I like paid it forward.
Pass the baton.
Yeah. Because eventually you get to the point where you've cut out all the good stuff and there's no more inspo, #inspo left. So anyway, yeah, we need to do that. New year.
Yeah.
New year.
New year.
New you. That's going to be our next episode. I'm kidding.
No.
I don't know. Do we want to touch a little bit? I mean, I feel like we talked some about our own experiences with like creativity and creating businesses, but do you feel like there's anything you want to say about that just in your own life?
Yeah. I mean, like we talked about in the purpose episode, not everyone is going to be drawn to making their creativity their business and what they make money from, or they're not going to feel the need to share their creativity like with the world as their purpose. But I know for you and I both, we've definitely felt called to. I feel the most like you know that feeling when you feel like you're missing out on something. And I know like even in the down times this past year where we've taken breaks with showing up online and being creative, like I want to show up online. I want to be recording.
Piece of you missing when you don't do it.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I want to do it. Like you feel like you're not being included in a game or something, you know? Like you're, oh my God. But so for us, I know that's like something we're really drawn to. For other people, I know you may feel pressure to show up online and you're like, why doesn't this feel right to me? Why is it not flowing? Like maybe it repels you energetically. You're like, ugh, I don't want to do this. It's like, so listen to that and you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
But for us, like, I know it's something that I love and it's such a resource. And yeah, so I've just kind of gone with it. I mean, I remember I saw an example. So maybe we're your example right now. Like I saw an example back in 2014 of Karina from Wild and Free Jewelry. And I was like, wait, I love that she's just showing up so confidently online and sharing what she makes. This is amazing. This is so cool.
Yeah.
How can I join in? How can I do this too? And it's so fun because now I like talk to her through the DMs or through email or whatever. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is the person. Yeah. Now we're peers.
Yeah,
like, isn't that crazy how that can happen?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think for me, it was like, I graduated from college with a degree in fashion merchandising. I always knew I wanted to do something creative. I thought it would be in fashion. But when it came time to like, okay, big girl time, do you want to get a job? Do you want to actually work in the fashion merchandising industry? I started looking at the reality of like, it's only going to work if you live in a big city, pretty much. And I didn't want to. I lived in San Luis Obispo. I loved it. All my friends were there. Like, that's why I wanted to be. And so I was like, well, I guess if I want to stay in SLO, I got to make it work somehow. Like I got to make my own opportunities, essentially is how I felt about it. And so that's kind of, it happened a little more organically than that, but that was kind of like the thought of starting a business and trying to make money off of my creativity was because I was like, I need a job because my parents aren't going to pay for me forever. And I want to move out of my parents' house also. And so I got to figure out how to make this work. And so at the time I was a bartender. I was a yoga teacher. I was working as a manager of a retail store. And I also started my business. So I just did that. And then eventually I was able to kind of drop a few things and do my business more full time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just a part of, I know it can be so frustrating. Like, I also remember being at whatever age in my early 20s and being like, it honestly is such a vibe killer. That's what I was going to say.
What is?
It's such a vibe killer that we have to work.
Like,
Like,
I know,
I
right?
fucking hate it.
Sucks.
Like, it still sucks. And it's just, but like, so I guess just really getting really clear with ourselves and myself. I'm like, okay, do you want to figure it out as you go and build your own path? Take the road less taken. Is that what they say?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Forge your own path with your machete. There's no path there. You just gotta figure it out.
We've been hacking away for years, you guys.
Oh, we've been hacking. Oh yeah. Or you can take the path that's already paved, and it's gonna be a lot easier, but a little less exciting, and there's gonna be
more predictable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no judgment either way. You choose your own game.
Well, I think it comes down to really getting clear about your priorities in life, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, their priorities are like stability and security and all these things, which are so incredibly important. And from a young age, I'm a Sagittarius, and the thing that has always been top priority over absolutely everything else has been freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, freedom of my time. I do not like people to tell me what to do and when to do it. And so I knew from a young age, I was willing to kind of sacrifice some of those other things that, are important, because I was like, I don't care. This is number one priority for me, and I'm willing to kind of go through this other uncomfortable stuff so I can do this.
Well, and that's the weird oxymoron of life, is like, life is such a weird paradox, because now, we decided that from a young age, like, we're going to be creative, we're going to be dreamers, we're going to forge our own path. And now we're hitting our later 20s and we're like, okay, now we need to take this really seriously. We need to figure out stability. We need to figure out security. We need to figure out how to be like financially thriving in this field rather than just going with the flow,
making it work, saying what we have to sacrifice.
Because when you're younger, it doesn't really, you just, we were making it work and we were living our lives. But now it's like, oh, I want to like grow a real foundation for myself, and I want to feel good and secure in what I'm doing. But it's so funny because on the flip side of the coin, it's like, okay, say we decided we wanted to follow the more predictable, secure path when we were in our early 20s. You just reminded me of this like a couple weeks ago, because even as creatives, we have those moments where we look at each other like, what the fuck have we done with our lives?
Like every week.
Like every week. But at the same time, it's super fun because we get to show up in these ways, like with a podcast or online. And then you have this moment of, I don't know, just these like moments of clarity and joy where something happens or someone tells you something in some way that you've impacted their life with what you do. And that's so rewarding. And then it makes everything worth it. So anyway, what I was saying was we could have, chosen the more predictable path from a younger age. But then I feel like still at this age in life, like at this time period where we're at, we would look at our lives and go like, okay, but where's the purpose? Where's the creativity? Why do I feel so?
We would be ignoring such huge parts of ourselves. And that would come up eventually. Like we couldn't ignore that forever. Yeah.
So it's like, no, there is no right path.
Yeah.
That's what's so frustrating about life too. It's like you want to try and figure it out and you want to try and have the balance of it all. But
and the honest truth is that there's always going to be sacrifice. You can't really have it all. There's always going to be something, at least in the beginning, for us, there was a lot we sacrificed to be able to make our creative businesses work. And we were okay with that. But there was a lot of people, that were, I had friends that were buying their first homes and I was still living with my parents and, these things that aren't ideal, but I was like, I'm willing to do this for now. But yeah.
Well, and bringing that up, it's like, thinking short term versus long term, at least for us. It's like for my personal soul blueprint, for my soul contract, if I was to put money first in my life or like, for me personally, I also have friends who success and financial stability is their number ones in life and they do amazing at what they do. And great for them, like so happy for them. then, but if that was me, I know short term, like I would not be happy. So
Mhm.
right now I'm looking at things more long term. I'm knowing that I have to make some sacrifices now in my life to be able to show up in the ways that I know will help me flourish later on.
Mhm.
But,
Yeah.
and I think success also comes to, like, there's so many different definitions of success.
Absolutely.
Success doesn't just mean financially.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, when I look at my life now, I mean, sure, I wish I was a little bit more financially secure, but as far as like the way I've set up my life, like I do have a lot of freedom of my time. And, like the other day, Savannah and I did a photo shoot at this spa in town. And so it was like, I think like Friday at like 3 p.m. And we were like sitting in the spa, and I'm like, I think if I could look at my 29-year-old self and be like, this is what I'd be doing.
your early
on,
20
like,
self.
yeah, or like if I was in my early 20s looking at my
Yeah,
29-year-old self, this would be like an ideal afternoon. So I'm like, you know what? I'm living the dream. I'm not like all the way there, but like I do have the freedom of my time, which is so important to me. So I think, yeah, no matter what path you choose, just like finding gratitude in that and having those moments, even if you're not 100% where you want to be, of being like, yeah, this is why I chose this, reminding yourself.
And really, if you're in your 20s like us, or even in your 30s, or at any stage of life, like there's always going to be progress to be made. So like you said, like finding the gratitude in these moments.
Yeah. I saw something today where it was like, if you are unhappy in your present, you're going to manifest that. So you're always going to be unhappy in your present. So no matter what outside factors happen, it's going to be the same mindset. And so you're always going to be searching for more and more and more.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I was going to get pretty woo-woo as far as like spiritual energetics and like moving, like being in a very dense third dimensional place, very like low vibration, versus being in a more like high vibrational place, or as the very new age people speak about, like the fifth dimension, the 5D. It's like the only way to move into that place is not seeing it as a thing that's separate from you, and understanding like it's a part of who you are now. You need to vibrate to that level. So that would mean
no matter what your circumstances are, mentally you're in the same place as you would be if you're a millionaire on a fucking beach in Barbados. Is that what you're saying? Just to like simplify.
I mean, kind of. I guess that you can be a millionaire on a beach in Barbados and still be like stuck in a lower density place.
Right. I mean, just how you would picture how you'd be feeling in that moment. You'd be super high vibe. If you think about, oh, if I was there, everything would be great. And so just embodying that
in who you are now, knowing that you're not going to get there by just, it doesn't even matter. But see, that's a whole aspect of being in a low vibration, is wishing that you're in a different place than you are now.
Yeah.
Because where you are now is exactly where you're supposed to be. It's perfect the way it is. It may not feel like it. Everything changes, everything evolves into something new. So trusting that whatever moment you're in now is for a reason, finding the gratitude for that, goes back to manifestation, having goals for the future, and knowing that you will get there quicker if you keep your vibe. That's the whole purpose of having high vibes.
Yeah.
You will have less roadblocks to get to the places you want to get to.
Yeah, because you're going to align with that version of yourself so much more.
Yeah, it doesn't mean millionaires are high vibe. Like money isn't a gauge of vibration by any means. It's just a thing.
It's just more picturing, like, if you could picture the best version of yourself. That's a better way to say it than saying if you're on a beach.
Yeah.
Just think about like the literal best, highest version of yourself and just show up as that person.
Your higher self.
Yeah.
And maybe your higher self is on a beach in Barbados. Is that what you meant?
Yeah. What I meant is like, that's what I picture when I'm like, that's my best version of myself.
And
it's
so
like, I'm chilling.
Okay, I fully understand now.
Yeah, I'm glad
I was lost for a second. I was like, I don't get it. But
I'm
I get
not
it now.
saying that if you're rich, everything's gonna work out. I'm just saying embodying like the best case scenario, best case version of yourself. Does that make sense? Okay.
And that'll be different for whoever
everyone.
You are.
Yeah.
Higher self. Embody your higher self, and in every moment. And a lot of the times, like in moments when you get kind of caught up in situations or I don't know, uncomfortable circumstances and you want to kind of react in a lower vibrational state of like anger or victimhood or judgment, it's like, nope, tap into your higher self. How would they react to this?
Mm-hmm.
And then act from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we've gone on a tangent. We were talking about creativity and we've moved to manifestations and billionaires in Barbados. Should that be the title? Billionaires in Barbados.
Yeah, I would want to listen to that. I still want to listen to that.
Oh my gosh. As Luann from Real Housewives of New York would say, money can't buy you class. Anyone? No one.
Oh, not
Just
even
me.
me, but I appreciate it. Hopefully this episode was helpful. Hopefully it inspires you to get creative in your own way. Hopefully, if you are thinking about building a creative business, we gave you a couple ideas on where to get started.
Or just apply creativity to your daily life.
Yeah.
Just shift your perspective a little bit and come at things with a little bit of creative spin.
Exactly.
How can I make this veggie saute a little different tonight?
A little less spicy in my case, because I don't like things spicy.
Yeah, throw away that recipe. Trust your inner guidance. And if your inner guidance says pull that recipe back out, maybe you should do that.
Yeah. Maybe if you're not good at cooking, you should start with the recipe and work your way up to not having a recipe.
True.
Anyway.
Practice.
Practice makes perfect.
But we're not going for perfection.
Yeah. Anyway, hopefully that was enough inspiration for one day.
Hashtag inspo. Hashtag go make your vision board.
Yeah, make your vision board.
Hashtag give us more
reviews.
Hashtag go review on iTunes. Hashtag give us more topics to talk about.
Yeah. The end.
The end. Hashtag goodbye.
Bye.
Okay, that one was definitely more chaotic.